Hello and welcome to another episode of the Father and Son Pastime Podcast. I'm Patrick.
I'm Kevin. How are you?
That's my dad. Dad, we've had a little hiatus.
Yes.
If you can't tell by some of the missing pieces behind us, we're moving. The lovely office is moving to a different zip code.
A bigger studio.
It'll be a different looking studio. Depending how you break it down, we're going to have fun with it.
I heard we're going to have a teleprompter.
Yeah, we'll not have a teleprompter from the 1980s or anything like that. But yes, we are moving. So that's kind of why we haven't done anything in August or in September so far. But the playoffs are nearly here. In theory, about a day/2 days away from the start of the playoffs. So we wanted to recap some of our predictions from, interestingly enough, 2 days before the start of the season, we did these predictions. So it's a recap episode, over/under, awards, and then we will obviously have a completely different mindset heading into the playoffs this year. Some of the teams that we took the under on made the playoffs. Some of the people we took the over on didn't even make the dance. So it'll be fun to recap.
Oh, I can't wait.
Dad, if you recall, when we did this, we did 30 teams. We did a $30 bet. Now, there is one team who hasn't been decided yet, but it was actually, interesting enough, the Orioles. They had a 90.5 over-under win total, and we both took the over, so it doesn't matter. I won last year. You won this year by 1. So here is $30.
Unbelievable.
We are very average, everybody. If the Orioles win today, my dad got 16 out of 30 right, and then I'd end up with 15 out of 30.
Wow.
So, again, if they lose, you can just subtract 1 from that. So we're really average.
C students.
So that's failure, actually, but see, that's even better.
It's Anne Arundel County grading. It's a passing grade.
There's some rounding, hopefully. But that just goes to show you that even if I took every single bet, I would just completely come out on average. I would win just as much as I lost. And now I'm already $30 in the hole.
Wow, that's great.
Some of the bets that I'm really proud that I took, and some I'm not. So we're kind of going to go through the AL. We're going to go through the NL. I have some quotes from the original podcast back in March where we made these predictions. And some are quite funny. Some will look smart. Some we will not look like we know baseball.
I think one I look smart with.
That's good. That's good. We had seven different predictions, so we had 23 the same, and then obviously you had 4 of those right. I had 3 of those right. So again, we have very similar minds when it comes to baseball. One differing opinion, if you will.
Was that Kansas City?
Well, again, we have 7. Kansas City was one of them.
Okay.
But we had 7 different ones. Dad, the Orioles, like I said, when we did this podcast back in March, we said, wow, a lot of these lines are really good, but we were shocked at how low the Orioles one was, and obviously it is absolutely called perfect. Shout out to DraftKings there. Dad, my note for you is that you said, oh, this is such a low line. Kimbrel's going to be a great closer for them. Released before the playoffs.
Yeah, he might be done.
I think he might be as well.
But what a great career.
But yeah, obviously we both took the over, and either way, if we're right or wrong, we're right around that. Dad, Red Sox. We support the Red Sox. We follow them. It's a bet that I took. I took the under after they traded Sale. They lost Giolito. They had a surprisingly, in theory, average year, but better than expected. If they win today, they truly go 81-81. But we both took the under, and we were wrong.
Well, yeah, they had a really good middle part of the year.
They start strong.
Yeah. And they were right there, I think, as they rounded like in late August, whatever, they were only, less than 10 games from, the lead in the AL East, and he's fighting for a wild card. Then he took a little dip.
Tanner Houck was a Cy Young contender, truly top 3, top 4 at one point in the season. Now he's 9-10. So not a Cy Young contender. Dad, we were very wrong in the Yankees. I openly said that it's going to be a chemistry problem. Soto and Judge and Stan and Verdugo all can't click. They clicked.
Oh, yeah.
Their line was 91.5 wins, and obviously they finished well above that, winning the AL East this year. Maybe not well above, but a couple games above. So, yeah, we're doing really great so far. We don't look intelligent at all with base. Orioles could go either way, and then back-to-back wrong picks.
But what years did, the 2 big guys with the Yankees have? I mean, great stats. And, you just have to – I mean, they really didn't have a great leadoff hitter Most of the year was Torres, and I know towards the end he got hot, and all that. But to have the home runs and RBIs of Soto and Judge, amazing, amazing. But what a 2-3 combo there. Good for the Yankees. We'll see what happens with Soto.
It'll be a fun offseason. We'll get to those predictions in November. Dad, the first one we both got right, and we can smile about it. We took the under for the Tampa Bay Rays, and they, just like the Red Sox, they're one game away from having a 500 season or an under 500 season. Yes, I have been on this podcast. I've always taken the Rays under. I've always lost until this year, which is funny. I always take the Rays and the Rockies under. The Rockies hit their over, actually, but we'll get to them soon.
Huh, yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, and then Tampa Bay had a little yard sale come end of July.
And they still finished 500. Yeah. Or around 500.
Yeah, they seem to just battle away.
Yeah.
They're going to have a really strong farm system because of all those trades. Give it 1 or 2 years, and Tampa Bay will be back. They got a really strong system.
They're also getting a majority of their injured pitchers this year back.
Yeah.
Come 2025. So they'll all come back and be quite strong.
Yeah.
Dad, our first different one was the Toronto Blue Jays. You were big on them. They were an 86.5 win total, which I thought was crazy. And I thought they'd be a good team. You thought they'd be a great team. You took the over. What a disappointing year in Toronto.
Well, they just didn't start out well. It seemed to be a problem with many facets. Rumor had it they were going to trade Guerrero and everything else. They just never clicked this year. They never really had a hot streak. Mm-hmm. So, that was a huge surprise to me because they do have talent.
Mm-hmm. Dad, moving on to the AL Central, the Detroit Tigers were an 80.5 win total. We both took the over, and I was on the podcast of saying, and they'll make the playoffs. I said win the division too. That didn't happen, but majority of those predictions came true. It was looking bad up until about September 2nd, though. Yeah. And they've had just one of the best months of 2024 in September. And they've earned the playoffs, and looks like they're going to play Baltimore for the wild card.
Congratulations to the Tigers. It really helps Detroit as a town. And it's funny. Either Baez got hurt or they kind of like told him to go away for a while. That's when they started to get hot, when Baez left the lineup.
That's true. It's also a team that sold some of their pieces. Don't forget Jack Flaherty was traded, and I think Chafin and maybe a couple other people. My memory was just on wins and losses. But if they can win a playoff game, what an incredible story, let alone anything more. Yeah. They made the playoffs. They've hit their over. They've hit their pride. But I'm glad we got both that right.
Yeah.
Dad, we took the Twins under, and again, that was looking bad until about September as well. But yeah, they just have completely fallen apart and crumbled. Definitely think there's a team chemistry problem there.
Yeah, I agree. There's an article in one of the papers recently that Correa was saying, hey, not everybody is putting 100%. And then all of a sudden there was a game, I think a couple days ago, that he hit the final out and he trotted and a pitcher overthrew the first baseman. First baseman had time to go get the ball and tag first because he was just like jogging the first. And people were very upset about that, saying, hey, here's this guy who's supposed to be the leader, but he's not running out ground balls.
They're getting doubled off on bunts. I don't know if you saw that too. So yeah, they didn't play with heart. Or maybe they were just tired, but it didn't look like they were playing with heart in September. Dad, my first egg on my face was the Kansas City Royals. This was a line of 74.5, which I scoffed at. That was basically a 20-game improvement, which is really extremely hard to do in one season. The Royals have done more than 30 games. I mean, like 32-game improvement. Obviously, they're making the playoffs this year. You called that right. My quote was, there's no way the Royals can get 20 games better. And they're correct, because they got 30.
Yeah, they lost more than 100 games last year.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking in history of baseball, that is a humongous improvement from one year to the next. Mm-hmm. And kudos to the farm system and, some really good trades and some good free agent acquisitions in the offseason, which are pitching staff. And, Bobby Witt is one of the better players in the league. So, hopefully they win a couple games in the playoffs, but I think the future is bright in Kansas City.
I think the manager of the year for the AL will come from Kansas City, Cleveland, or Detroit. Mm-hmm. I kind of leave Cleveland. First-year manager as well. Dad, we both took the under. The Cleveland Guardians, after a not-so-good 2023, were at a 79.5 win total. Bieber got hurt. I mean, knowing what I know now, I would absolutely change it. But in the moment, I was very confident. Dad, your quote on that was the Guardians are going to absolutely clean house at the deadline. Now, they didn't add anything. Yet they're still one of the best teams in baseball.
The bullpen is probably the best in the majors. Yeah. You get to the 6th inning and game over.
Yeah. Class A is going to get Cy Young votes. Like, legitimately top 5 Cy Young winner.
And he should.
Yeah. Under 1 ERA.
And, they play that small ball, and they run, and they play defense. They play baseball the way they play baseball, and this year they added a little bit of offense. But again, defensively, they're really a top-notch team. Mm-hmm. Fun to watch.
Yeah. Dad, this is where the DraftKings studio lost a lot of money. The Chicago White Sox line was a 61.5 win total. And again, coming into the year, that wasn't even the lowest for all of baseball. I took it immediately. I took that bet. I wish I bet $1,000. So I won that bet, by the way, back in August. That's insane to win that early. Obviously, we both took the under there. In theory, we saw lowlights of the worst baseball season in modern times.
Yeah. I don't know if you saw the video clip, but the fans were booing when the White Sox won, so they didn't get to the record for the most loss. Fans were booing because they won. Only in Chicago.
That's funny. Dad, this is where you, I think, really kind of overtook me because, again, you had the Royals, I had the Blue Jays. I had a lot of energy in the returning champs of the Texas Rangers and the always dominant Houston Astros. Now, the Houston Astros still won the West. They had a pitiful start to the season, one of the worst Aprils I've ever seen. So I took the over of 93.5. You took the under. You're right. The Rangers really disappointed me.
Yeah.
I thought an 88.5 win total for a World Series winner was, insulting. But you took the under, and you were right.
Yeah, I think they lost more talent than they thought. I mean, especially in the pitching staff. And the offense seemed not to click. They had some injuries. So they just never really had any momentum the whole year. They kind of stayed 10 games behind 500 most of the year. Off to a bad start, and they just never recovered.
Well, Dad, you continue to know the West. I know a little bit, apparently, but we both took the unders. By the way, you took all unders for the AL West. I thought it was interesting. Panned out for you. Got 4 to 5 right. The Mariners and Angels, we both took the unders. Mariners, again, missing the playoffs by only a few games.
Yeah.
87.5 win line. Took the under. The Angels, Dad, had a line of 72.5. That's off by around 15 games. So that's the one time where DraftKings and, Vegas, if you will, wasn't close.
Yeah, the Angels got a team that, they have talent. I know Mike Trout was out a good bit of the year for injuries and all that. But, man, talking about a team that just can't get it going. I really am shocked the Angels were that bad this year. Even Oakland finished above them. So I don't know what's kind of the future of Angels. I'm not sure where it's going. In fact, they gave the GM an extension.
I was going to say that. I mean, you can fail and get promoted in America. The Oakland Athletics that you hinted, they had the lowest predicted line of 57.5 wins. We both took the under. There was a bet on DraftKings who will be the worst team in baseball. I put a lot of money on the Oakland Athletics, and I was wrong. I kind of got that money back with my bet of the under on the White Sox. But boy, oh boy, what a great year. I mean, that sounds weird to say because I know there's a lot of factors, but they performed above average in Oakland. They lost their stadium. They lose that piece of their identity. But they kind of went out on a positive note. They weren't the worst team in baseball. They have some stars up and coming.
Yeah.
Lawrence Butler looks extremely good. Brent Rooker, 40 home runs kind of guy.
Yeah.
And they didn't trade Mason Miller. So maybe there is a core building. It just won't be building in Oakland.
Correct. Yeah. Las Vegas, here they come. But I think, again, because they were so bad for so long, those draft choices are starting to come around. I think that's the key. So they have, a system that's pretty good with some stars coming up. We'll see what happens. Hopefully they get do some free agent work and all that. But, yeah, they improved greatly.
Dad, between the AL and the NL, we were actually a little bit better in the AL. The NL is where we made some good predictions and then some really, really bad ones. I'll lead off. So the Braves line, Dad, this is where I attribute my loss of the over and under to. The Braves had 101 and a half win total. You said no way they're going to hit that many. Philly's getting better. Everyone's getting a little bit better. They have to play more teams. That's too much. I bet the Braves over. I bet Acuna MVP. I bet Spencer Strider Cy Young. Yeah. So I put a lot of money on the Braves to do well this year, and obviously none of that really paid off. They look to be in the playoffs. I think it's just a matter of playing out a couple things. I think they win one more game and they're in type of thing. It'll be cool to see what they can do in the playoffs. But boy, oh boy, they're about, I think, 14 games off.
Injuries.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dad, the Phillies, we both were on the over of 89.5. Nothing really spectacular there. I don't think either one of us... No, you thought they would win the division as well. So kudos to you. We took the under on the Marlins, a 78.5 win team. They weren't close to that number. Worst team in the East.
And they're losing their manager.
Who won the manager of the year last year?
Think about that for a minute.
He'll get signed.
They get rid of all the players. I think Cincinnati. I think he's a front runner for Cincinnati. Sure. But anyway, here they are. They get rid of all the good players, and they expect him to win. And so he loses his job because of what the front office did. You make some sense out of that. I just don't know why they did what they did. They gave up early. Remember, they did a massive trade in, I think, April, if I'm not mistaken.
May. It was later May.
Okay.
And
yeah, and you take the heart out of the team, and they're not going to perform.
Rise was their hitter. So
yeah, more than 100 losses.
Dad, the Mets. We dogged the Mets on this podcast back in March. We thought they're built to sell. 81.5. Line was more than generous. We both took the under. Now that, again, they could not be. There could be a lot of things, but it looks like they're going to be a playoff team. A crazy push. There's some grimace thoughts. There's some weird, they just went on a lot of streaks, and obviously that helped them get enough wins to be in the playoffs.
Yeah.
We'll see where this team goes. There's New York fans, obviously. Some of our subscribers are New York fans. People are always hoping for a Subway Series. This is not I don't think, a World Series Mets team.
No.
But it's been a little fun to watch. But I don't see a CS in this team's future. But again, we've been wrong on the Mets on this podcast before.
Yeah.
Dad, the Nationals, we both took the over. We were real proud. This hit, I think, about 2 weeks ago. It was a low line of 65.5 wins. They had a lot of youth. They had a lot of energy come up. Obviously, they did trade some pieces at the deadline, but they still won enough games early to hit their over.
Yeah. Watch out for this team next year. They may be a playoff team next year. They got some young guys coming up.
Corbin comes off the books, and then they can get... I mean, they've already been linked back to Soto. I think Anthony Santander is a nice little, I don't know, consolation prize almost, but he's just as good of a hitter, in my opinion, as Soto. Soto has a better view of the plate, and he's younger, but in terms of production, both people are capable of hitting 40 home runs.
Yeah, that'd be a nice piece. That would give them a little power.
Mm-hmm. Dad, the Cubs. I love that you were a fan and took the over. They just missed it. They had an 84.5 win total. I took the under. I got that one right. And the Brewers, despite it seems to know that you're the Central guy, but I knew the Central a little bit better. That's where I did most of my wins in the NL. I thought it was a disrespectful line of 77.5. I know they lost Burns and Woodruff was hurt.
Yeah.
But I'm like, this is still a team that can grind out stuff. They still had some, decent things to it. They're one of the best teams in the NL. They won the Central. No one else is going to the playoffs from the Central. 77.5, disrespectful. I think they were 15 or so games above that.
Manager of the year, Pat Murphy.
Yeah, and then don't forget the Cubs-Brewers switch. I mean, they paid $8 million for Counsell, and they are about to win the same number of games, Dad, this year as last year.
And thank God the last 2 months that the Cubs did well, or else they wouldn't even be close to that number.
I mean, if you look at that, does the manager matter at all if they win the exact same amount of games?
You know what? Craig can cash those checks and get out of town today.
I don't know, but something more needs. It wasn't the manager, is my point there.
Correct.
On why this team didn't improve.
Right.
something else.
The Cubs had a lot of injuries, but not to make excuses, the offense didn't perform. They need probably 3 or 4 major players in Chicago. We'll see if ownership comes up with any money. But Craig Counsell, was quoted about a week ago saying we need to build a 90-win team and we need some help. So let's see what Jed does, because this is Jed's last year of his contract. Next year, if they don't win, bye-bye Jed.
I think what's interesting, again, my dad being the eternal optimist here, they're the only show in town. The Cubs will have a better product if they sign nobody in the offseason than the White Sox, who are on record of losing more payroll. They want to shed more payroll.
Yeah. How?
So the Cubs will still have fans, and they could win 70 games, and they're going to win 20 or more games than the White Sox.
Yeah. Welcome to the 70s version of the Cubs. They were stinking back then, and they packed Wrigley every day.
So,
I
don't know. We'll look at that.
It's the keys to Chicago's economy. It's the Chicago Cubs.
Yeah. Dad, the Reds, we both took the over. What a disappointing season. 81.5 wins. They fire their manager.
Which is weird, the timing.
Yeah, I mean, they've extended him in the past when they weren't a good team.
Yeah.
But yeah, so since issues in Cincinnati, I took that bet. I lost some money on the Reds. We'll see what happens. The Cardinals had the same line as the Cubs. I made a joke about that. Like, come on, DraftKings, give me something. They were 84.5. We both took the under. I put money on it. I was right. They had a decent year, just very similar to the Cubs. Just, again, fell a little short. Cardinals will also have a lot of money to play with this offseason. A lot of their pitchers they signed in last year's offseason were one-year contracts.
Yeah.
So they're going to have to really explore what their future holds. I hate that they traded Tommy Edman at the deadline. So we'll really see what their identity is. But as of right now, the Brewers are going to be first place unless there's a massive change again. Woodruff gets back next year, people. Like, he's back from Tommy John, and I'm sure the Brewers will find another way to win the Central. Because the Pirates, in my opinion, on paper, have the best chance to contend next year because they'll have a full year of Skeens.
Yeah.
That was the highlight this year. They didn't hit their over. We both took the they did hit their over. I'm sorry. We both took the under, and I think we didn't expect Skeens to come up so early and win as many games. But they won like 76, 77 games, and their line was 75.
It's funny. The Pirates have a little bit of, kind of like you can trace them. They have a really good first couple months of the year, and then they trail off. They were in second place for a while, and they were looking good. They had a young, exciting team. I don't know what it is. They get to the deadline, and they just don't do well past the deadline.
I don't think they I think they added, 1 or 2 pieces this year?
Yeah, but...
And they didn't really pan out.
Yeah, but it seems to be, if you go back 5 years, it seems to be their MO. They do come out blazing and then kind of like slump off after that.
Dad, as we move towards the West, it is a shit show for us. We got 4 out of 5 wrong. The only one we got right was the one bet I placed, which is the Arizona Diamondbacks. Same logic as Texas Rangers here. They're an 83.5 win total team. We both took the over. Former, NLCS winner, World Series, runner-up. We took the over there. They may not make the playoffs, though. So while we got the over-under right, we might, I don't know the last time this has happened, where both World Series teams don't make the playoffs in the following year. I know that's happened with the Nationals in 2019-2020, but the Astros still made the playoffs that year.
Yeah.
I can't recall a time where both World Series teams didn't come back to make the playoffs.
Good point. Really
Had
good
it
point.
90s maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, that is strange. And the Diamondbacks had to fight like heck to get back to respectability because they had a horrible beginning of the season. Yeah. They were well under 500.
Yeah. There has to be a lot of things that go well for the Diamondbacks in these next 24, 48 hours for them to make the playoffs. If they lose, they're out. They need to win and have Mets lose. So it's...
Yeah.
We'll see. I think it's very unlikely the Diamondbacks make the playoffs just because so many things have to fall in line.
And if they don't make the playoffs, they can blame the first 60 games.
Sure.
Yeah.
And Corbin Carroll really didn't perform. Corbin Carroll and Julio Rodriguez have very similar starts this year. They were like, "Are you okay? Are you injured? Like, why are you not yourself?" And unfortunately, those two teams they put a lot of pressure on their young kids to perform. And if those kids aren't carrying the team doesn't do well.
The league figures them out.
I mean, again, also if you're the superstar on that team, pitch around them.
Yeah.
Pitch around Corbin Carroll. Oh, he gets on first. He might steal.
Yeah.
We'll take that chance.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Dad, we both took the over on the Dodgers. Getting Ohtani.
Yeah.
So many of these things. Some injuries, Betts injuries, there's some pitching injuries. They can't ever seem to get a fully healthy rotation. They still had a lot of wins. They're still, won the West. But they didn't. No team in baseball had over 100 wins this year.
Yeah. What do you think? Ohtani MVP? Would
Yeah.
that be a safe bet?
Yeah. For him
50-50?
and Yippee.
Yeah. What a year. What a year.
First time a DH will ever win MVP.
I know.
But he could do, depending on what he does today, do 55-55.
Unbelievable.
But 50-50 is what we'll say.
Yeah. What a base. And then next year he starts pitching again. Think about that. To be that talented and have a year off and then come back next year and he's going to pitch.
This was the only year he won't be the favorite to win MVP, and he still won it. So bet money on Ohtani to win MVP.
Yeah.
As long as he's playing. Dad, we got the next 3 straight wrong. We both thought the Giants would be better contenders with their late signings of Chapman and Snell and, what was it, Lee. Lee got injured early. Chapman didn't adjust well. Snell didn't adjust well. The late signings. Chapman had a really great season at the end. Snell had a decent season. Chapman liked where he played. He re-upped. He got extended. San Francisco still can't figure it out.
It's a great offseason. It's probably one of the better off seasons in baseball last year, especially the late February and everything else. But yeah, I thought for sure they were going to creep up the standings. But again, they reached that plateau and never could get above it. They seemed, to get a little bit above 500 and then go below, and now they're going to probably end up at 500. But they never got in the streak to really push them into contention.
They need a win today just to be a 500 team. Very similar to the Red Sox or the Rays. And honestly, if you said, "Oh, the Red Sox and the Rays and the Giants will have the same record," I'm like, is everybody making the playoffs?
Yeah.
But
yeah.
Dad, the Padres, we mistakenly took the under. Same line as the Giants, 83.5. We thought the Giants would be the better team, and the Padres would. 7 shortstops, not all field. Rookie of the year, probably, Jackson Merrill.
From Spring Park.
Local boy. You've talked to him. I haven't talked to him yet.
Yeah.
What a great year. I think...
Who would have thought a shortstop going first year, playing a position in the major leagues, would have the year that he's had?
Yeah, go play center, kid.
Yeah, he's 21 years old.
Yeah.
New position, and he could be Rookie of the Year. What a great story.
Kim, speaking of shortstops, their shortstop, second baseman, wherever we want to put him, he has an option in his contract this year, so it could be the last year for Kim in San Diego, because I think he will want to get paid more and maybe be the true team shortstop out there. So watch him opt out, and we'll see either Jackson or Tatis come back to the infield.
Yeah.
My odds are in Jackson, actually.
I agree. And he's a big shortstop. He's 6'4", 210, so and good power. Phenomenal story.
Yeah. The Rockies did win a couple games over 60, so they did not. They didn't. They hit their over, I guess. We both took the under, as we always will. I don't know how. Openly, I didn't really watch a lot of Rockies games this year. Charlie Blackmon has retired.
Yeah.
But I don't know. They won enough games, maybe because the Giants and the Dodgers didn't hit their overs.
They have a few really good young players, including their center fielder, which I think made a big difference. So they do have some youth coming up. I think that was the difference this year. And we probably just didn't know who they were.
Dad, recapping our predictions for awards. I don't think we're going to get any money. Dad, you took Jackson Holiday, and I took Evan Carter for Rookie of the Year. That won't happen.
Yeah, you're right.
Dad, I took different Jackson Churio, and I'm sorry, I didn't write down who you took for NL Rookie of the Year, but it's not going to hit. Do you remember?
It was Imagog, the left-handed pitcher.
Shota Imanaga.
You got it. That's what
No. You took Yoshinobu Yamamoto. Now that I remember that.
Okay.
You did.
Okay.
But he didn't happen.
Okay.
We both took Corbin Burns for the Cy Young, Dad. He had a good year, but he won't win it. That looks to be Skubal.
Struggled for a month.
Yeah. And by the way, no, I don't think anyone in their right mind outside Detroit plays money on Skubal to win after he struggled year after year after year, and it's all finally clicked.
Yeah.
Dad, I took Spencer Strider, and then obviously that's where my Braves money starts to go to die. You took Zach Wheeler of the Phillies. I don't think it's going to happen, but he had a really great year.
Yep.
AL MVP, Dad, I took Corey Seager, and I think you took Soto, or yeah, you took Soto because you didn't want to go with Judge, I believe.
Yeah.
But you should have gone with Judge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I should have. What a year.
Dad, we were between two MVPs in the NL, and neither of those are Shohei Ohtani. I took Acuna, you took Betts. Both got injured. Yours shorter than mine, but we didn't get anything right. Last year we got a couple right. This year we will not be cashing out anything. Dad, do you remember your World Series prediction? I remember mine.
Was it the Phillies?
I don't remember.
I thought it was the Phillies.
Do you remember who you took it over?
I thought it was. I was saying the Rangers. I think it was Phillies Rangers.
No, you took the under on the Rangers. It wasn't that.
Huh.
No way you had
I can't remember.
We can rewatch that one.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, folks. I was focused on the numbers. But I took Braves over Orioles in 5. Those teams are in the playoffs. That doesn't look likely openly. But regardless, we are going to... I was right.
It
right
was
here.
the Orioles. I did choose the Orioles.
Do you take Phillies over Orioles?
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, now, Dad, I will bring up, excuse me, what looks to be a fairly locked-in playoff bracket, and we are going to pick our World Series matchup. Don't say your winner. Just say who in both, who represents each league.
Okay.
Do you have it written down?
I have in my mind Padres, Orioles.
Okay. I like the Padres pick. We're going to talk about that in a second. I like the hot Tigers. I just don't know how hot they'll last. Cleveland's scary, but has no offense. At the end of August, I took a bet on DraftKings that a new World Series winner would be crowned. That's never won the World Series before. I like the Brewers. I like the Padres. Dad, have Padres over Astros. Who do you have?
Padres over the Orioles.
Wow! It is a father and son podcast, or a Padres and whatever son is in Spanish podcast. I don't know what it is. Sorry, y'all. Hermano, his brother. Thanks, Arrested Development. So it looks like we're going to be rooting for the Friars.
Yeah.
Dad, I will be surprised if the Orioles can hold out the hot Tigers just in the wild card. It'd be great for the city of Baltimore if they win a playoff series. But boy, oh boy, do the Tigers have the momentum.
Yes, and I think the Orioles have their lineup back. Westberg coming back, huge addition. And I think Mountcastle being back. I think right now their lineup is extended. They're longer in their lineup. I think offensively they'll do quite well. They'll score a lot of runs in the playoffs. I think the Tigers might be getting a little tired. We'll see about the young pitching they hold up. But I think in that short series, I think the Orioles sweep.
Do you have a CS lined up? I would probably go with Yankees, Astros, Padres. I'll say it, Padres, Brewers.
I say Orioles, Yankees, and then Brewers, Padres.
Orioles, Yankees is not possible because the Orioles would. The winner of the Orioles Tigers plays the Yankees.
Okay. So then I'll go my sleeper Royals, Orioles, Padres, Phillies. That's what I'll go with.
Padres Phillies has happened before, 2 years ago?
Yes.
So it'll be fun to watch. Don't listen to us. Subscribe to us, but don't bet from what we said. We do thank you. This is our last podcast in our Rosedale studio. So thank you for subscribing. Thank you for listening. If you haven't followed us yet, we are at Pastime Podcast _ on Twitter and Instagram. And we are the Father and Son Pastime Podcast on Facebook. Our next podcast, Dad, will probably be around Halloween or whenever the World Series ends, and we'll recap the playoffs.
Okay.
And then we'll have a lot of fun doing our Day After Thanksgiving podcast in the new studio.
That is going to be so much. It'll be here before you know it. So thank you for listening, by the way, and we hope you enjoy everything. And it was great to do this. What a great day.
Enjoy the playoffs.